Let's go live here. Let's go. All right, Doc, how's your weekend? How's everything going?
My weekend was good. Everything's good. I know it was Father's Day weekend. The highlight of my weekend was fixing my tub.
Oh,
That was
jeez.
the highlight of my weekend.
Yeah.
And it might sound, I'm going to make a video about it. If you understood the
Hey,
amount
of
of
work.
work and the struggle to get that thing fixed to the point where professionals are like, I don't know, we have to cut in here and do this. It's going to be
Oh,
expensive. I don't know what to do.
oh,
And I was like, so that was the
10,000.
finally getting that fixed was the highlight of my weekend. So yeah, so after that, everything's great, you know.
All right. Welcome to another episode. Thank you for joining us, guys. If you're even been curious about what we're doing for the past couple weeks, past couple months, head on over to letsgo.boundariesandbrotherhood.com. Fill out your assessment, figure out what we can do for you, and just read what we're all about, becoming the 11th man. I'm your host, Gordon Wat, and my co-host.
This is Dr. Keith Fairclough.
And today's subject is going to be, what is it going to be, Doc? While you start
How do
thinking.
you show up as a man in your
Ooh,
life, in your family, at work? How do you show up as a man?
I like that. I
Yeah.
like that because how you show up is going to be really important in what you do between your family, your work, sometimes your spiritual life or everything. But how you show up determines a lot of your character.
So what we're going to be talking about, guys, today is like I said, how we show up, right? How we show up for ourselves, how we show up for our families, how we show up for work, how we show up to improve ourselves. Like, what exactly does that look like? Because unfortunately, we live in a society where people don't want to take accountability. People want to push it off on everybody else. I know the running joke is like, well, women run from it, women run from it, but if you are a man, you're like, oh, well, the only reason I have these issues because my wife is like this, right? Because I used to be like that. Well, if my wife wasn't just so crazy or she just wasn't like this, then things would be better. But I never stopped to think about how am I showing up in my relationship. I looked at my finances and was like, oh, woe was me. I'm paying my tithes and doing all this stuff, and I'm such a good guy. Why aren't I making a lot of money? Because I'm not showing up and using the talents that God has blessed me with. And when I would even go and pray and ask God, like, God, what was me? Oh my, and God would actually get mad and be like, bro, stop. Like, stop coming to me crying. I blessed you with these gifts, talents, skills, and abilities. You're not using them. So I wasn't showing up for myself there. When I gained a whole bunch of weight, I wasn't showing up for myself there. Right. So long story short, as much as we want to talk about women not taking accountability, there's a lot of us as men that are also not taking accountability for ourselves. So we have to stop and look at how am I showing up? Am I showing up as my best self? Am I doing my absolute best? Have I tried everything? Have I truly tried everything? Have I really tried to solve this problem? But long story short, that's what we're going to be going over, talking about how a lot of times these areas we don't show up, how we don't show up for ourselves, we don't show up for our family, we don't show up for work, and then how we can start showing up. And our confidence plays a big role in showing. Because remember, confidence is your belief in yourself to do the thing you said you're going to do. So how much are you going to actually try if you're not confident? You're not going to try a lot. And what's going to happen is when you're in that state, then you start blaming everybody else and everything else for why you're not where you're supposed to be. Well, ultimately, it's just because you don't believe in yourself enough to do the thing you said you're going to do.
No, absolutely. I mean, there's showing up can be so many different faceted, so many different ways. How are you like, let me ask you this. What does showing up actually mean for men in today's world? I mean, is it being responsible? Is it being authentic? Is it engaged? Is it giving too much? It can be so many different avenues. What are
Mm.
you seeing and what is your version of that?
So showing up in today's world, or I guess I want to say really it's the same thing from across, you talk about the modern man, there's a modern man. Listen, we've been men and we've been men from the beginning. And, the Bible says that there's nothing new under the sun. What once was will be again, you
Mm.
know, and it's going to happen. Right. So ultimately showing up is, for one, being your authentic self, being the you at all times. Right. Being able to add value and do the thing that you said you're going to do, being confident and just operating your role as a man. And then the third thing is really operating all your roles as a man, being a leader, provider, and protector, right? Actually operating and trying your absolute best, right? And not your absolute best to your ability. Because I know some people might say, well, I did my best, right, to the ability, right? Because if your ability is not enough, you need to then gain the competency so it can be enough. Because too often I hear the excuses from, and no offense, older generation, it's like, well, I did the best I could with what I had, right? But yeah, your kid's jacked up, your family's jacked up, so your best wasn't enough, and you have a responsibility. Because think about your role, right? Whatever role you're in, whether you're ready for it or not, you have a responsibility to operate in the highest level in that role for the people who are you're going to be either serving or leading or protecting or guiding or providing for. You have a responsibility, and you can't rely on, well, I did the best I could. So there's that aspect as well showing up is if I am not good enough in this role, if I'm not competent enough in this role, I'm now going to take steps to become more competent. So why? So I can operate the highest ability for my wife, for my kids, for my coworkers, for my subordinates who work under me, for my community, for myself, right? Because
Right.
even for yourself, that's huge as well. Because sometimes, if the goal isn't big enough, we'll take it easy on ourselves, not recognizing that when you quit on yourself, you're quitting on everybody else that's counting on you as well. So showing up in those domains and those aspects, that's what it should look like in today's world, right? And especially like with, again, showing for yourself, part of that's a big part of that is boundaries and self-care. Too
You,
often we think
you,
as men, like, let me sacrifice myself and put myself on the back burner and never take care of myself in this hopes that that's going to make me like a better father, a better husband, a better leader. And it's like, no, it's actually making you worse. The fact that you're not standing up for yourself is actually making you worse. The fact that you're burning yourself out all the time and not taking care of yourself is actually making you worse. It's not making you better. So therefore, showing up for yourself is vitally important, as men in today's world and really in any time period, honestly. So
I mean, basically, a lot has to do with doing that for not just yourself, to hold yourself accountable, and to be persistent enough to be able to do those things for you, your family, the ones that value the most, right? Because emotional presence, even moral accountability and purpose driven action is just part of the situation. Doc, give me examples of what you're seeing now where that essence had been lost. Because in the future, with our workshops, this is the kind of stuff we'll be talking about to how
yeah.
to see where you've been, how you can become. What are some examples you're seeing that really get under your skin when you know they can be done?
I think the biggest thing, like I just said before, the last thing as far as like us as men not taking care of ourselves
True.
under the idea that by doing so that's what makes us a man, right? Because I'm sacrificing myself and my mental health and my well-being for my family or for my business or for my kids, that now adds the value. It's like that's not what adds the value. Yeah, it hinders your ability to provide for everybody, right? You not standing up and saying, no, I don't want this, I don't like this, I need this, I don't need, like, you being able to have those boundaries. That's what we need, but that's what's lacking so much. And that's
I
what's
see.
creating, I know we
I see.
talked last week about, the simp culture and things like that. But again, a big part of that is the fact that we're under the impression that if I just give more, if I just serve more, if I just do more, and I never think about
Making
myself,
it worse.
eventually someone's going to do it for me. Someone's going to recognize and appreciate and and there's no guarantee of that. But
No.
that's also not why we're supposed to be doing things anyways. We do it because we have a role to play. And to operate in this role, we've got to take care of ourselves. So we got to break this mindset, this societal brainwashing that me sacrificing myself is the number one way for me to be a man and to show up. And it's like, it's not. It's absolutely not. You need to be able to tell people, yeah, no, I'm off on Saturdays. Sorry.
You're doing you a disservice if you don't have boundaries for yourself. You are doing you a disservice for your family if you can't have a backbone and have rules in your relationship because you're going to have miscommunication down the line. You will be doing another disservice for you because it'll eat at you and you're going to hold resentment if you don't communicate what you want, when you want this. If punctuation is not your thing and you don't make it clear, you're going to be holding that against you. If you're taking too long in whatever you're doing, right?
Yeah.
If your kids, I just did it with this morning with my son. If you don't stop doing this, this is what's going to happen. I have to put that because he has to show boundaries, even though they're kids. But you are doing you a disservice, and you're making excuses for yourself because you're seeing everybody else doing it, getting ran over. That's not
Yeah.
what we're supposed to be. I understand the grifts of it. I understand the understanding of, okay, I can be empathetic, I can be sympathetic of other people, but what are you doing to have that emotional intelligence, to control those emotions, to draw that line in the sand, to make it
Yeah.
seem like, man, this is my, you know what I mean? Basically, you mean, so you either bite by it, we work it out, we talk about it, right? Because understanding those things can really, and it happens in the workplace, it happens in your relationships, it happens in your community. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Because people's perceptions always change also. If you don't have those communication skills and be okay with yourself. Like
Yeah.
last week's thing when you said, who's responsible for making yourself happy? You're responsible for making yourself happy, and having
Yeah.
those boundaries to have how you showing up is just part of that.
Yeah.
Doc, let me ask you this. What five core domains in a man's life is what makes it all move forward?
They have. I was actually talking to someone online about this the other day. I have an old video that talks about the 5 domains of life. And then I also did even for this video here or this, or I was talking here, it gave me another set as well. So I guess it really depends on who you're talking to. My original thing was physical, spiritual, mental, emotional, financial.
Okay.
Person I was talking to, they were saying it's physical,
Okay.
spiritual, mental, emotional was together, social, and there was one more as well. I forgot which one they said.
They combine both
It- Mental and emotional.
mental and emotional.
Yeah. And then there was
Spiritual and faith?
well, I got spiritual in there.
Okay.
Then the problem we got today, we got self, relationships, work, spirituality, and community. So I guess it really depends on who you're talking to, honestly. But even if we look outside of all the labels and different domains and things like that, we look at what's important to us, right? As a man, look at your life, what's important, right? You're important, right? Your family is important. Then if you're not married, then that family could be like maybe your extended family, your siblings or parents, or whatever family you've created with friends, right? There's a lot of single guys that have friend groups that they're like part of those families, your work, like where you're able to add value, where you're able to, have purpose and driven and have ambition, spirituality, and then as far as your faith, then, either, well, I say God, other people say, other things, but like whatever your spirituality is, that's a big part of it as well. But your faith, that's heavily tied to your beliefs, but that's a different topic for another time. And then community, you being engaged in the community, right? And whatever maybe it's a different effort. And some of these things blend and flow, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Long story short, wherever you show up, there you are. Wherever you show up, whether it's in your finances, whether it's with your wife, whether it's with your kids in the community, with your friends, wherever you are, you show up. Regardless of the different labels, think about for a moment, like, where am I at right now? And how can I show up in this moment right here? How can I show up in my faith? How can I show up with my finances? How can I show up
Yeah.
in my wife or my kids? So having a sense of mindfulness will be very helpful as far as that's concerned.
True. True. Faith, family, fitness, finance, is, and also,
Mhm.
like you said, self-preservation for the happiness, for you having the right mindset. That can go in so many different ways for beliefs, because you could have so many excuses, so many things going on for
Yeah.
yourself. How am I going to show up? I have to still be authentic, true self, having
Mhm.
these boundaries, having the backbone to tell people no, to draw that, even when I was working at the hotel, I mean, you get all kind of different stuff going on fast, right? But
Mhm.
now it's like, okay, people would always wonder, like, why are you so, guess what asked me, you're different. I mean, from all aspects of celebrities to gangsters to all this stuff, people that have been, he said, why are you so different? I said, because I've seen so much stuff and I've been changed. And when they went to get to know my story, he goes, that's why. I mean, because you can tell. Even like, I mean, every celebrity man. That's one thing I miss about the hotel. The celebrities that would come in and say, "You're still here at the door." You be like, you sit there saying, from every single one of the stories I could tell, but I have to draw the line on certain things because I have
Yeah.
to have boundaries, because that's part of the thing.
Mm.
You know what?
It,
One
well,
thing,
I will say this before we go to the next thing. I would say it's really a big important part of this is being authentic, right? And being
absolutely,
yourself wherever you go. I think a lot of times what happens is us as men, we might kill it at work. However, we might not show up like that at home, to kill
At
it
the
on our
family. Yep.
yeah, kill it with our kids, or we might be phenomenal with the family, but we might be terrible with the finances, but we're the same person,
Yep.
right? We're the
Yep.
exact same person. So we have to ask ourselves, what's the disconnect? What's stopping me from showing up like I need to, right? Like, especially if like you played sports, you might play sports to be a beast on the field. Like, it's a mentality, it's a mindset. So
Yes.
when that mindset from transferring to every other area of your life, it's that we're not being authentic. We're not being fully authentic in every area of our life like we need to. We're not showing up for whatever reason. And maybe it's because we're not having boundaries, or because we're not confident in certain areas, or because we're not as competent in certain areas. But that's what I mean by showing up. If we recognize that, if we make that shift, and you're at work, you're like, man, I'm killing it here, but my marriage sucks. You don't want to go, I have a killer mentality here. Like, if there's a problem at work, I'm gonna find a way to solve it. I'm gonna read every book. I'm gonna watch every video. I'm gonna ask every question. Why am I not taking that same? Because that's me. Why am I not taking that same mentality into my marriage? Why am I not taking that same mentality into my health? Because maybe all the other domains are great, but you're severely overweight, and now you're pre-diabetic, or you're having heart disease, or all these things like that. It's like, okay, I'm a killer here. I'm a killer here. I'm great here, but I suck here.
No balance.
Mindset should be across the board, and that's where that authenticity has to always show up in every place, so that we know, okay, when I get to a certain area that, okay, maybe I'm not as competent, I'm not as knowledgeable, then how do I solve that problem? How do I overcome it? Right?
Absolutely.
So that's what,
Explain.
yeah.
Like, even for me, I mean, like you said, you got to be well balanced, well rounded. Like, you could have. I just watched a video where it's like you might be. It was talking about a female being masculine at work, but doesn't know how to turn it off when she gets home. She does. She can be. She's working in a male-dominated industry, doing all this other stuff going on. Come home, but the marriage sucks. And what do you expect to happen? She has to get well-rounded. She has to be able to turn that thing off. She has to walk into her role as a wife, but at the same time, her man, her husband, also has to be able to communicate and draw the line with boundaries for her too.
Yeah.
I mean, let me ask you this question. Give me an example of one of since we're going to go over these 5 domains, right? I mean, it's much different for other people, right? Part of self going into the workshop. Gentlemen, let me suggest this first. Guys, if you want more knowledge and help with us, please go to letsgo.boundariesandbrotherhood.com to get more knowledge on this. Come work with us. It's a free assessment. Come see if we can work something out with you guys, right?
Mhm.
One of the core domains is self. Explain to me a bad situation and one that you can help being the person you are as being Doc.
So you said one of the domains is self.
Yeah.
And a bad situation, and then how we can get out of that.
Yeah, like, how are you managing your emotions? What kind of habits are you having? And how are you healing? Right?
Okay. All right. Let's see if I have like a scenario or story about
Yeah.
that.
Give me a metaphor.
Ah. So, okay. So I would say for this, right, showing up for self, I think the biggest thing is not making our emotional needs known. I think that I can generalize that, right? So
Wait. Explain that. Not making your
not
emotional
making our
needs.
emotional needs known, right?
Oh,
Yes.
dive into that one, please.
Yeah. So first and foremost, and I'm going to be talking about this more. I'm going to be talking about this more on a radio show coming up soon. But the idea, and I think I might have mentioned it here, but there's an idea that, oh, men just want to be respected. Women want love. Men just want respect. That's it.
Okay.
When we know that's a lie. I think all of us can attest to that's a
Okay.
lie. Just saying, not true. There's a lot of things that sound like, oh, men are a lot.
It sound good.
It sounds good because you heard it so long, but these are all lies. Like, we know men have emotions. We know feel emotions. We may not be able to express it, or when we try to express it, there's a reason. So no, we all got emotions. We all got logic. Men have logic and emotion. Women have logic and emotion, whatever. The whole idea that men just want to be respected and that's all we care about, it's a lie. Because I can speak to my own marriage, right? Like, my wife has, for the most part, outside of arguments, things like that, respect has almost always been there. That did not make me feel loved. It did not make everything great. I see a lot of the guys I work with, it's not about, we get to the emotional part, right? We get to the emotions, and it's not necessarily about the respect. that might have an element in it. But the thing is, if you love somebody, if your wife is loving you the right way, the respect kind of comes with it, right? Like, for instance, don't buy shoes and it's like there's no tongue with the shoes or there's no laces with the shoes. Like, it all comes together, right? That's one of the things I've seen is that it's the emotions that need to be acknowledged, right? And as far as us showing up, us being able to advocate for our emotional needs. So how do we go about doing that? Well, for one, this is something that's important. I think that this is one of the main issues that we have as men is that we're not setting those boundaries. We don't set enough boundaries and we don't let them be known. And we don't let them, our wives or our kids or the boss, we don't let people know like, hey, listen, this is it. This is the line that I'm drawing, right? So in order to make sure that our emotional needs are met, we got to make sure we're setting boundaries and we're communicating clearly what our emotional needs are. Hey, this is how I want to be loved. This I want to be respected. This how I want to be treated. This is what it looks like. This is how you can talk to me to get that. Like, we need to make that stuff very clear and very known and let them know that, hey, listen, if you don't abide by this boundary, if you cross that line, if you're doing something that is violating me, then I'm letting you know right now, I got to pull away. I got to pull away. I think, so when it comes to self, that part we've got to get down. We cannot be sacrificial lambs. We cannot be nice guys. We cannot be simps. We cannot live under the lie that, oh, well, me just getting, nobody loves the man and they, women and dogs and children get unconditional love. And no, it's because you're not setting those boundaries.
Of course.
If you set it from the beginning and say, I will accept no other treatment except this, and she won't abide, then you can say bye, right? You know what, Gordon? It's just like that. I think that's one of the biggest things when it comes to self, showing up for self, is setting those boundaries and saying, this is how I want to be treated and demanding it, right? Like, I'm not going to budge off this because when it comes to boundaries, we've all said this before, they're not something that's this wild, crazy thing. It's not like, oh, in order for you to be in my life, you have to climb Mount Kilimanjaro 5 times a day and then you can hang around. Like, no one's asking for that. We're asking to be treated the right way, talk to the right way, love us the right way. That's it. So we got to make sure we are establishing that, right? And the thing is, gentlemen, once you establish that, once you establish and understand how you want to be loved and treated and cared for, in all different relationships and all different areas of your life, guess what? You're going to get not just respect, but you're going to get love. You're going to get emotional safety. You're going to have a place you can open up and share. You're a place where you can be yourself without having to worry about things being used against you. You're going to get all of that. But first, you got to show up for yourself and know your boundaries, establish your boundaries, and know how you want to be treated and share that with other people to give them the opportunity to do so.
No, I mean, you're absolutely 100%, because if you don't voice your opinion, voice your wants, voice your needs, you're just being passive aggressive.
Exactly. You're right. Because then we get mad, we get hurt because we're not getting the needs met, but we never made the needs known. And then we stop. Well, you should have known, or you should have thought about it.
No.
Like, you can't even say that until you first let them know what it is. And now, whoever the person is, whether it's a friend, child, or your spouse, or your boss, or whoever, your employees, or whatever, they're thinking like you have a bad attitude and things like that.
Right.
And they're kind of pouting like, well, no one ever did it for me. It's like, but you never let anybody know. Now, if people know and they're not doing, and you've told them, this is the story. But then you have to initiate the consequence. The consequence is I got to separate. But too often, it's like, yeah, you violated my boundary, but because of duty, we allow it to continue to happen. Well, duty can perform, but I'm going to do my job and go home. That's it. Right? I'm going to provide like I need to, and then that's it. But there's not going to be that closeness. There's not going to be that relationship. Remember, when it comes to boundaries, the greatest thing that you can do to enforce them is to remove your presence for someone's life, because that's what the blessing is. The blessing is not in money, not in provision. It's not in any of that. And gentlemen, you know this. Like, how many times have maybe you paid for this and bought this and did that, and it's nice. But what do people say? I want your presence. So as your wife said, I want you to be there.
Tension.
The most, I want you to show up. I want you to connect. Like, that's what matters the most. So you are the thing that basically is the most valuable. So when you separate yourself, so yeah, I'll still pay bills. I'm going to take care of the family. So my time is that you're not going to get anymore. That's what you control with your boundary. That's the most valuable thing. And the thing is, If someone doesn't value you, they say, oh, well, I don't care if you don't talk to me. Then guess what? It's okay. You didn't want that person in your life anyways. If they're not willing to think about it like that and respect it like that, then you don't want them in your life anyway. So just remember that upholding your boundaries, that's how you do it. You separate yourself, and it's not a punishment for the other person, but it's protection of you. Because what do they say? Good fences make good neighbors. But imagine if you didn't have any fences, your neighbors would be parking all in your yard, tearing up your grass. If your neighbors were doing that, would you just sit by and be like, well, I guess that's going to be a good neighbor? Believe not, man. You're gonna be, man, if you don't get your car off my lawn, you be calling the tow truck company, you be setting up fences, you be calling the HOA, you be doing all that. Why? Because you understand that you have crossed the line. Right? You're now into my space and you are violating my space. And now there are consequences associated with that. Treat yourself the same way. You are violating my space. I now have to initiate a consequence, and the consequence is you are no longer allowed to be in my presence. Now, if you get right, if you want to respect me, if you want to love me, if you want to listen, if you want to do those things that are going to show me that you actually care, then by all means, come back in. But if not, I got to enforce it. So I know it's a long one on the first one, but I think that's really, really important for us as men to internalize and understand, and not get lost in all these euphemisms and, respect and love and logic. And I just got to keep doing or lead while I bleed and all this stuff. Like, no. There's no book, no law, no Bible, no Quran, no nothing that says us as men have to go through life not being valued and just have to serve everybody else. There's nothing that says that. We have a right to exist, a right to be loved, a right to be respected. We have a right to have boundaries, right? So just keep that in your mind. Don't listen to the garbage. Keep that truth in your mind.
I was just about to say, you got to keep those boundaries in your head, because at the end of the day, once you put that fence up and you understand that metaphor that Doc said, I asked him to make a metaphor. He made a great metaphor right there. But that was so good, because that's how you have to look at it, because you're destroying yourself if you don't have the boundaries. And if you want application.
Wait, Gordon, say that part one more time.
You're destroying yourself if you're not setting boundaries for yourself and everything else that you got going on. You are everything.
Not other people.
No,
not
you.
Your mom, not your dad, not your wife, not your boss, the community, not the black man, not the white man, not the government. You are destroying yourself.
Yep.
When you don't set boundaries, because you are allowing the behavior to continue. You are.
It's right there in plain view. But a lot of times the journey that people have to figure out to get to that might need our help. They might need a workshop. They may need an application to figure out, I am enough. I know how to show up. I know what self is. I know what can do. Yep. And that's why we created the 11th Man Workshop, where you're going to figure out how to get these things all done for yourself and be proud of your situation and how you can create boundaries for yourself. Let me ask you this, Doc. Now, another one. Yeah. Family. Woo! How are you showing up, being dependable or just physically present? For your kids, your sibling, deep.
Okay, guys, check this out. Listen. Huh? You have to command and you have to lead in your household. All right. You have to command and you have to lead in your household. It is critical, right? And it's very important for you to learn how to do this before you get married, before you get into a relationship, because women are looking for their men to lead. Women inherently do not want to lead. They are not built to take on the pressures of leadership. So, ladies, maybe you're out there in corporate America and things like that, but for lack of better words, we're built different, right? We're built to take on more stress. We're built to take on more hardships. We're built to take on harder times without breaking down. And it might just be a biological thing because y'all got more estrogen, and we have more testosterone. Maybe it's something along those lines. But the fact of the matter is, gentlemen, think of it like this. Someone broke into your house. Would you want your kids to go and stop them? And let's not even say they have a weapon, right? Let's just take that out, right? They don't have a weapon. It's just another man, right? Average strength, average everything, right? And he breaks into your house. Do you want your kids to go and stop him? Do you want your wife to go and stop him? Who would you want to go and stop him, right? would you just sit by and let that guy come and just, you see him throwing your kids around and, tossing them one way and then jacking your wife up and like, you have to ask yourself the question, like, okay, well, who's supposed to step in that situation, right? You're supposed to step in this. Of course, like, yeah, of course. My wife's going to get dragged, my kids are going to get stomped, right? Of course I'm going to step in, right? We need that same mindset in every area. Right?
Yeah,
the lead doesn't mean you're domineering, like, like you have a wife, you have a help me, you have someone who could actually help blow you up big, right?
She's the bonus.
Exactly. So it doesn't mean that you have to do it all by yourself, but you do have to do it, right? The final say has to be with you. You have to lead with confidence. You have to be like, hey, I know what I'm doing. You have to be instructing yourself, learning, growing, going to workshops to learn how to be a better man, how to lead the families. Like, you should be cultivating yourself because there's so much on the line, right? And we often talk about, women being masculine in the relationship. Well, here's the thing. Every relationship across the board, doesn't matter what it is, straight, gay, trans, all that stuff. Every single relationship has a masculine. Someone's got to lead.
Something.
You look at any of them, and generally speaking, the ones who are masculine are the ones who are leading, and the ones who are feminine are the ones who are following. Generally speaking, that's how it happens, right? So if your wife is coming in trying to be like, I'm going to bogart you, you need to be able to, again, the boundaries, hold like, whoa, who are you talking to?
Wait. She will only go as far as you let her.
If she's super masculine from the beginning, then why are you even with her? If she's like, yeah, I'm not bowing down and I'm not doing this and I'm not, you can say, you know what? Then you're not with me. Please exit stage left. Like, you can keep it pushing. It's okay, right? Because you have that boundary, right? Keep going along, and you have a woman that's like, yeah, I'm down to follow you. But again, here's the thing: most women want to follow. Even the women who are leading in their relationship, they want to. It's like, they're leading because, dang man, he's not stepping up. So you need to find a way to step up in your relationship. You need to find a way to step up in your family and lead, and not just, well, my kids are just going to be my kids. It's going to do what they're going to do. So I don't have any input, or their mom's out of town, so I don't know what to do with it. Bruh, you need to, it infuriates me to no end. I'm going to share this with you guys. It infuriates me to no end when I hear women saying, oh, my husband's like another child. It infuriates me to no end to hear men talk about how pathetic they are when their wife leaves the house. That infuriates me. Sure.
What? I never heard that. I guess I'm already different. I never heard that one. I'm trying to say out of the country sometimes.
It makes me crazy. And I don't know if they say it as just like, oh, that's how valuable my wife is. But it's like, bro, you're the leader. You should be creating the system. Backwards? Like, yeah, my secretary left and the whole business fell apart. You're the leader. You set the structure. When my wife goes away, nothing changes.
Nothing
At all. When I'm not, changes.
I mean, it's the routine, the system, like you said, everything else that's what I didn't even heard of guys like that. But then again, too, I'm not around like what you see, so it's kind of different. I went like
it's a joke.
I was just about to say something. I would be like confused, like
in front of people, like I mean, I remember there were times when I guess it's one of those euphemisms, like, oh, the woman's always taking care of everybody, And so me and my wife would be out, and the woman would try to use that, and we'd be like, nah, it's not like that. It's not. My wife would be like, yeah, no, he takes care of all that stuff. Like, he does that. And the women are like, oh. Like,
yeah,
oh.
like they step back, like, oh, they'd be like, oh, how come I can't have that?
Yeah.
How come I can't have that? Like,
I can't have that when I say,
how come they can't have that? But it's put up their chest and be somebody else all of a sudden.
But I think that's the thing, though. So, gentlemen, when it comes to your family, you gotta lead, and if you don't know how, you need to find a way. Ignorance is not an excuse. When you take up responsibility, ignorance is not an excuse. I just don't know. It's not an excuse. There's a fly. You have lives on the line. If you're looking from a spiritual aspect, you have souls on the line. You're gonna be responsible for.
Absolutely.
ignorance as, oh, well, I don't know, or I didn't have a father.
That's why you go get it.
Or father. So I need to go and get them.
Let me
And we
go
being an age, easily accessible.
No, it's a choice now.
Well, just you can find out. You
Yeah,
can
you can-
find out. Right. And I've been doing therapy, and so I can look at certain things and I'll go, okay, well, yeah, that's an extreme, or that's not right. Or I can take the meat and leave the bones, or things like that. Maybe not everybody else would do that. However, just look, you go to ChatGPT. We even have AI that can help you now.
It'll tell you.
Hey, I'm trying to be a better father. I'm reliable, evidence-based resources that can teach me how to be a better father. Find me some resources in my area. Boom. Boundaries and brotherhood. Boom. That comes up there wherever you are. Right.
Yes, sir.
Right.
That's how it.
So, so you can't feign ignorance. Not knowing is not a feasible response. Right. Because guess what? It doesn't work with your wife. You tried that. Well, I didn't grow up with the father. Yeah, well, but here we are. Right. Imagine you're at work. Don't look for the to learn.
Let's go to the next one, because
Yeah.
guys, Doc laid a perfect example. If you're looking for professional help, one-on-one therapeutics, please go to find Doc at Freedom Change Success. If you want workshops, and what we're going to be doing as from a coaching standpoint, where we separate the two businesses, right? The two things. Go to Let's Go Boundaries and Brotherhood and come work with us, guys. You have nothing to lose. You're already in a bad situation. Let me get you to a dream life where you're happy with yourself. Let me get you to a dream life where you can be confident. You know how to draw boundaries. You know how to control your household. You know how to create a routine where you're not making excuses for anything you got going on in your life, including your work. That leads us to this next one. Are you working with a purpose or just hiding behind and going through the motions? Explain that one.
Man, are you working with a purpose or hiding behind it and just going and working and just going through the motions? Gosh, man, we could do a whole video on that. So let's first stop and say this, right? As part of being a leader, part of being a man, you really got to focus on what your purpose and your passion is. I cannot express enough how huge for you to know what your purpose and your passion is. That is a massive turn on for women. And I know this isn't like about, relationships or whatnot, but I'm just saying it's a massive turn on for women. It helps to galvanize people around you to help you get to where you're trying to go. Like, you give other people purpose in that, right? Because now they can link up with you to help you. But if you don't know where you're going in your own life, how in the world can you lead anybody else?
Yep.
A leader has to lead.
It's what they call leader.
And in order to lead, you must know where you're going or what you're
Right.
Going towards. If you don't know what you're driving or going towards, how can you lead anybody? Right. And so that's what leaves a lot of women confused. It's like, okay, he's a great guy. I love him, but I don't know where he's going. I don't know what he's doing. When we don't have our passion, when we don't know our purpose, then how are you ever going to give your 100% best? How are you going to make sure that your skills, talents, and abilities are being put to the best use possible? You're not going to be fulfilled in your work. So yeah, you are going to go through the motions. You are going to say, well, I guess it is what it is now. And so now I just got to suck it up and just do this job and drive Uber. I hate my job. I hate my life. Let me just wait for retirement and just wait to die. Do you understand that the reason why you have a passion and a purpose is to help other people? Yeah, that's what it is. So if you just resign in yourself to not lead, if you resign in yourself to have no ambition, if you resign in yourself to have no purpose, no passion, people are not going to make it because of you. I know it's a lot of pressure because, like, we're already under pressure, but that's just what it is. There are people who had a vision right here in Las Vegas.
Howard Hughes.
This man came into the middle of nowhere, a desert, and had a vision, and he created an entire freaking city off of a vision, right?
That's all it takes.
Like, it's just one person. Right? There are people that have jobs and livelihoods and ideas, and we're able to do this right here because one man had a purpose and a passion and a vision. So I'm not saying we all got to be that big as Howard Hughes or Steve Jobs or, Bill Gates or anybody like that. But what I am saying is that if you're not walking in your purpose and your passion, if you don't know what you're striving for, if you don't know what you're trying to accomplish and how you're trying to add value in this world, then you're not going to be able to give your absolute best effort, and you're not going to be able to show up. Right. And so that's why it's so critical for you to find out what your passion and your purpose is. Stop at nothing. Pay whatever money you got to pay, read whatever book you got to read, watch whatever videos you got to watch, pray for how long you got to pray, fast for how long you got to fast, whatever you have to do. I hope you see the sense of urgency, hear this urgency in my voice about this, because this will literally make or break you for the rest of your life. Right. And there's nothing worse than seeing a man that's just defeated, just walking through and going through the motions. There's nothing worse than that.
Yeah.
So you got to, when it comes to your work, so that you can operate at the highest level, please find out what your passion, your purpose is. And also say this, Gordon, I'm not saying that you got to go out and start a whole business, but if your passion and purpose is like, man, I don't know about all that business stuff, but I know how to market like a beast, then guess what? Then you can get with someone who's doing something that, I can market that.
Collaborate.
There's your skills, they have a place, but make sure you know what your purpose is and what you're designed to do, right? So I'll just say that as far as work is concerned, that's what's critically important, is knowing what your ambition, your passion, your purpose is, so that you can maximize yourself in that area.
Yeah, you said something that hit it on the head, because a lot of the times people won't work on their purpose because they're just going on the redundancy of life. And then they lose so much essence because you were created something special. Finding out what that specialty is might take you some years, might take you some ups and downs, might be taking you on some trips. But find that purpose, like Doc said. You find the reason why you exist. It could be your family, it could be your kids, it could be a lot of different things. It could be something that you find later on in life. It happens. Kentucky Fried Chicken, the guy started it when he was 50-something years old, right?
He's like 60.
So like close to 60 years old. There has to be something small. It doesn't make a difference. Whatever you went through from your past in your life, stop making excuses for it and go try something different, right? Let's go. When I walked away from my 6-figure job at the hotel, it changed us financially, but putting it all into retrospect, Andrea put on the weight for the financial, but she knows where I'm going. I also have some businesses going. That's what respect has to do with everything, where I'm taking the kids. But at the same time, I'm in so much in my groove in what I'm doing right now. I've been a millionaire twice in my life. This might be my 3rd or 4th time. That's how this move is, right? And that's what we're trying to get for you. If you need an encouragement, a push, this is what me and Doc to help you find that gift. Because that gift is in you. Let us bring it out for you.
You said your wife, Andrea, she knows where you're going.
All the
She
time.
knows where you're going. If the people who are following you know where you are going and know what you're trying to accomplish, it's so much easier for them to support you and sacrifice and give of themselves, because they know where you're going. It's like, why am I doing that then? Why am I pouring my all out? Why am I sacrificing so much? And I don't even know what the heck I'm sacrificing it for. Because as a leader, there's a greater vision. Because if you sacrifice this, if you would help me, if you hold it down for me, like in this case, because guess what? Gordon is like an AI master. Is this me?
Who talks about master?
Yeah, nah, you're a master, man.
I get to create shit. I put the pieces and puzzle together. I'm very good at that.
And you see this, so she has no problem working, holding down that load. Why? Because she knows my husband, he's going somewhere, and I can sacrifice and I can hold it down for us while he does that. And you guys don't know how many hours and hours he pours into his craft. Oh my God. I mean, it's 4 in the morning. Hey, Keith, check this out real quick. I'm like, like 2 in the morning, putting this stuff.
Like, that's me.
But that's what it should look like. That's what the passion, the purpose should look like. Like, he's like, Gordon, he's just getting after it. And so I just love that example. And then like I said, that what you said was just so powerful, because sometimes, Gordon, there's a lot of guys that are like, well, I can't give up this job because if I do, my wife's going to be burdened. But if you know where you're going, there's countless stories of women who will say, yeah, I was holding it down for him while he took off. Brendan Bouchard, he's a motivational speaker. His girlfriend was holding it down.
Yep.
His wife.
Russell Brunson's wife working 2 jobs, same. They're all.
Yes.
All of it.
Yes. holding it down for them so that, and then now, boom, what happens? They end up to blow up. Like, you have to know what you're striving toward. She has to see it. You have to paint that picture for her. And where I know where it's all work, but if the people in your company, you got to paint a picture like, this is where we're going, and this is how your efforts are helping us to get there. There's value in what you're doing. But again, if you don't know your passion, you don't know your purpose, you don't know your ambition, and you're just kind of just flowing through life, then it's hard for people to get behind that. It's really difficult.
They don't have that vision.
You know,
I mean, I've been a CEO of a company, so it's like I already know what they have to buy in. Regardless, they have
exactly.
to buy in. They have to buy in. Let
And
me
you
ask
can't,
you.
oh, last thing, and then that. And you
Yeah.
can't get mad at people for not wanting to follow your lead and submit. You don't know where you're going. Because too
They'll just
often,
fall in.
a
They'll
lot
come
of
back.
guys, they get mad, like, oh, she's not submitting, you know, and she's this and that. And we can get to a whole nother video for in and of itself. But like, if I don't know, as a leader, right, take relationships out of it. Let's talk about work, because that's where we are. I don't know where you're going. I don't know what you're trying to accomplish. I'm not sacrificing for you. I'm not staying late. I'm not doing anything extra. I'm doing what I'm assigned to do, and I'm leaving. But if you tell me we're trying to save men, I'm all in. We're trying to save kids. We're trying to save relationships.
I mean,
Absolutely. Hey, I'll stay till 10 o'clock tonight doing whatever we got to do. Why? Because I can get behind your mission. I can get behind your vision. But like the Bible says, my people perish for lack of vision. They don't know where they're going. So the people are going to perish in your care because you have no vision. You have no purpose. You have no ambition. So it's really important, men, for you to strive for that. All right, I'm off my horse now. I'm off my horse.
now
Yeah.
this is going to be to our fourth pillar, or
No.
the fourth domain,
Yes.
spiritual life, right? Spiritual life. What happens when something happens, when life breaks you down? Where do men turn to? And if you don't have this, do you kind of like pray for like forgiveness only in crisis, or is it a daily habit or conviction that you need to have?
Our spiritual walk, it needs to be a daily thing, just like anything else, right? Any other area of our life, it's a daily thing. Gentlemen, like, there is no automatic. For a great life, there's nothing that's going to be automatic. I'm going to tell you that right now. If you're thinking you can one and done anything, I can one and done my marriage, one and done my job, one and done my faith, it's not going to happen. There's no growth. And we think, well, things are going to stay the same. It's cool. I love my wife. Again, I know I use a lot of relationship examples, but just follow me. Like, I love my wife, and just as long as things stay just like this, we're good. Absolutely not, bro. Like, you got the work, right? So when it comes to our spiritual and our faith, like, yeah, you're supposed to be building that on a daily basis. That's supposed to be independent of your success or the crisis or issues. Like, your faith needs to be steadfast across the board, right? Not wavering based off of, emotions or situations, but you don't get there unless you practice it on a daily basis, right? You need to be praying on a daily basis, studying on a daily basis, right? And again, I don't know, I'm just speaking from a Christian point of view, that even Andrew Huberman, he's Dr. Andrew Huberman, he's a neuroscientist, and he was saying, like, I don't know if he believes in God or anything like that, but he was saying, like, there's something that happens in the brain, biologically speaking, when you're operating in your faith, when you're praying. But it's something that we should be on point with and doing every single day. If you're supposed to be the spiritual, you're supposed to be the leader of your household, but as a spiritual head of your household, now speaking again from a Christian perspective, like, you have to understand that there are forces out there trying to get to your family. They're trying to get to your kids. They're trying to get to your wife. They're trying to get to you. There are so many forces trying to get you, and you have no idea. There's a reason why I'm like, no TVs or games or anything in your rooms. Anything you're watching or doing, you're doing it downstairs, right? Because I know the enemy is out there trying to get my kids, trying to get my wife. And I got to be aware of that. And by being able to be steadfast in my faith, praying every day, reading my Bible every day, doing these things, building my faith, making sure I'm steadfast and not allowing my emotions to throw me off and say, well, I'm throwing my hands up, right? I'm done. I'm not doing this thing anymore. But just being like, well, I trust in God. I don't know why things are so bad, and I don't have an answer, but God, I'm going to leave it to you, right? Like, I got to be able to be in that spot. And there's a safety in that. My wife was like, okay, my husband prays every day. He goes on his prayer walk. I see him going on his prayer walk. There's a safety in that because I know he's covering me. My kids see it. They see an example. This is what faith looks like. This is what it looks like in a hard situation. These are the things, going to church, being part of the body, right? Whatever your spiritual body is, like doing that. It's critical for us to be able to be that example for our family and be steadfast even for ourselves. Because I often tell people, you know, if it wasn't for my faith in God or Jesus Christ, if it wasn't for that, I probably wouldn't be here today. Because I've
Absolutely. Yeah.
been at some really low points where I was like, man, I don't even want to do this anymore. And I'm talking about life. Like, this is too much. I just want to be done with it. But because of my faith in God, right, he was able to kind of pull me out like, hey, just take one more step. Just keep moving forward. And this was critical because I didn't really have a brotherhood. I didn't really have anyone to turn to, right? So that's all I had. So, and unfortunately, there's a lot of guys that, especially those who don't have faith, it's like, well, I'm at my wits. I don't know where to go. I don't know where to go to. And there's a comfort that comes with cultivating your spirituality. There's a comfort that comes there because you actually have somewhere to go to kind of unload if you feel like you have nowhere else to go. So it is something that needs to be cultivated on a daily basis. It's not a one and done thing. It's not, oh, it was a crisis, God got me through, and now I'm good, and I'll just see you, you know, either on Christmas or Easter or anything like that. Like, no, it needs to be a daily walk. How would you feel if your wife only came to you when she wanted something, kids only came to you when they wanted something, your friends, people just came to you when they wanted something, or when there was a problem? Any other
Right.
time, there was no relationship, you would feel like crap. And sometimes, listen, some of you gentlemen, that's exactly how you're living life right now. You're like, just
Yep.
like that. It's service-based only. And you feel horrible because it's like, I'm just being used. It's the same thing with God. God's like, you only come when something's bad. I want a relationship. I want you to know me, and I already know you, but I want you to know me. I want us to talk and engage. So just keep that in mind. Like, I don't want someone to do that to me, so I'm not going to do that to him. So I'm going to go walk with him every day, right? So I would say that as far as spirituality, that's something that needs to take place on a regular basis, you know, as part of being a man and showing up.
Yeah, basically that's so true with everything else. But a lot of the times people forget that part of the thing, whether it's small, whether it's on meditation, whatever you do that to get into that zone.
Yeah.
Please do it, whatever faith, because understanding that that's part of growth and everything else to become one with your creator, however you want to look at it. You need to have that because without that, you will have no direction. Everything pulls into a lot of different things. But Doc, we're going to have to end it right there. We do have a fifth one, but we win. This is a long one. Guys, if any of this resonated with you, if you're not stuck in a problem that you might not have a direction, looking for some purpose, want to learn how to set boundaries for yourself with your wife, your relationship, your kids, your boss, and learn how to do something for yourself, please head on over to letsgo.boundariesandbrotherhood.com. If you want professional advice, seek out Doc at Freedom Change Success. You find him all over online, and you see some of his stuff online right now. Reach out to us. I'm your host, Gordon Wat. Aloha, Keith. Dr. Keith.
Dr. Keith. You guys take care. Show up and show out. Give it you back, right? Show up and show out every area of your life.
You need somebody to hear this right now, what we got going on. All we do is helping out brothers. We're here to support. All right. Aloha. I'll see you guys next week. Same time.
Yeah.
Bye.
Take care.
Hey brothers, thank you so much for spending this time with us today. If you found value in this conversation and want to continue growing with us, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. We're dropping new content every week aimed at helping you become the best version of yourself. And if today's topic resonated with you, we've got plenty more discussions just like this one in our previous videos. Check them out and let's keep building this brotherhood together. Until next time, stay strong and keep showing up for yourself and those who count on you.